Well, hello, everybody. I'm Brian Pelkey with Windermere Real Estate and the Clark County Association of Realtors. Today, we are lucky to have Tanisha Harris with us, who is running for Washington State Representative in the 17th Legislative District. She's going to answer a few questions for us about housing and the upcoming session. But before we get started, Tanisha, would you like to just take a minute just to introduce yourself and before we dive into the questions?
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for this opportunity to talk a little bit about my campaign and the upcoming legislative session. I'm really honored to be endorsed by the Clark County Association of Realtors and appreciate all their support in this race. 17th LD is my lifelong home. I was born and raised here, went to Evergreen High School, then went to Clark College and Washington State University of Vancouver. And I spent 10 years in the Evergreen School District, working in the area of multicultural diversity education. And for the past, 8 years now, I have been with the YWCA Clark County as a CASA program specialist advocating for foster care youth, and really have been involved in the community from being on the Clark College Presidential Search Advisory Committee to the City of Vancouver Task Force for Council Representation and being involved with the local Democratic Party, the NAACP, and most importantly, I think one thing that's really near dear to my heart is the Evergreen Citizens for Schools back in 2018 and 2019, but in particular 2018, and thank you to the Realtors for your support on this, passing the largest school bond in Washington State history with close to almost $700 million. So really involved in the community, and the reason why I'm in this race to kind of give back to the 17th LD. And I just feel that we just need better representation up in Olympia. And I look forward to working with everybody.
Okay, well, very good. Well, let's dive right in here with the first question. How should the legislature address the housing shortage in Washington State?
I think this is an issue when it comes to housing shortage, and also affordable housing is an issue that whether you're city, county, or state elected officials should all need to tackle and take this seriously. It's not just affordable housing, but also houselessness and homelessness as well too. And we know that many of our families are 1 and 2 paychecks away from either going into bankruptcy or losing their home. And so it's really an issue I think all of us need to take seriously. I think looking at investments into the communities themselves, working with builders and realtors to see what type of programs can be offered, how we strengthen those programs. There's a lot of things already taking place, but I think we need to strengthen them and have a true partnership to show that we are serious about keeping people in their homes and also expanding home ownership opportunities for especially a lot of young families and first-time homeowners.
Okay. What approach will you have in the approaching session as it relates to revenue?
I think this is a question I've been asked a lot on the campaign trail this year by many individuals and organizations. And for me is keeping an open mind. We know that we do have an upside down tax code structure in Washington State. So we do need to look at our tax structure. And for revenue, we know we are facing a shortfall thanks to the COVID-19 and with the budgets the way they are. And we know that we have a lot of opportunities, but also requests from organizations, state agencies, counties and cities too, to fulfill those requests too. And so when we're looking at revenue, I think it's keeping an open mind. I'm not a fan of a state income tax. Like I said, being born and raised here in the 17th, I know that's not a very popular stance, and having friends and family who've crossed that bridge every single day for the last 20, 25 years, paying Oregon income tax is not fun. So I want to avoid having an income tax, but there's other different revenue sources that we can look at to see if we can do to put in some revenue back in to our budget, so we are not facing shortfalls and we can fund the things that we need to fund in our state.
Okay. How should we balance our commitments and investments with the economic impacts that have been felt statewide?
I think, when you're looking at maybe transportation infrastructure projects, you have to see what is vital, what is important, and what projects we've already made a commitment to, and do all that we can to keep funding those and keep moving those forward, such as the I-5 bridge, especially down here in Clark County. But I think when you're looking at the balancing of what the legislature is going to have to do, it's going to take a lot of time and patience. But I don't think we can just turn our back on investments in our infrastructure systems throughout the state, because we know that those will eventually turn around and create jobs and provide economic stability. And especially down here in Clark County, we're still one of the fastest growing areas in the state, especially Battleground and Ridgefield. And with the I-5 Discovery Corridor, coming into place over the next 5 to 10 years, we have to keep moving forward. But it's working together to make sure that those investments are wisely and not costly at the same time.
Okay, I have one last question.
Okay.
What are your overall goals for the upcoming session?
Well, if I am fortunate enough to be elected, my first goal will be to navigate a virtual session, is what I've been being told that. So that will bring some interesting opportunities and challenges. I think to understanding and learning more about the state legislature. I'm already really familiar with it as my work with, like I say, CASA and the YWCA and the Evergreen School District. But it's really going to be about establishing relationships, and then also the work that I want to do on different committees, and my commitment to continuing with the funding of the I-5 bridge, want to invest in infrastructure down here in Clark County, support for our small businesses, and couple passions of mine will be special education, access to social services, and healthcare.
Okay, very good. Well, Tanisha, a big thank you for taking a few minutes today to discuss your positions on these important issues today. Again, thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
All right. And to all the rest of you, please make sure you get out and get your ballots in by November 3rd. And a big thank you all for joining in today.